What's up, y'all? This is Vocab Malone, Soldiers of God, joined by some of the members of Soldiers of God. We got Brother Marcus Webb in the house. We got Brother Faithful to God in the house. We got the Brother So Real in the house. Later on, supposed to be joined by some others. It's good to see y'all. We have titled tonight's Hangout, Hebrew Israelites equals ex-Hebrew Israelites. Provocative title, we know, but we're going to explain why we chose that. And actually, Faithful, a little bit of tonight's agenda, hopefully some of the things we're going to discuss, and then we'll start picking them off one by one. Just some of the things we talked about prior, give people a snapshot of what we're going to do tonight. Could you please do that, Brother Faithful?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're pretty much going to talk about the up-and-coming debates by Soldiers of God. So we have the Brother Marcus and we have Surreal, who are having a debate sometime, I believe it's on the 9th and the 16th. Am I correct?
Right. Yep. On December 9th.
Right. So December 9th is going to be the Brother Marcus versus McElwar, correct?
No. December 9th is going to be me and Brother Surreal. We're going to be debating.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I keep getting those mixed up. Okay, so let me retract that. So on the 9th, it'll be Surreal and the Brother Marcus versus the Torah Knights. That would be Judah Natsara. I always get that man's name messed up. And I believe someone else. I don't know who he's gonna bring, but you know they're gonna lose. Nah, let me stop. But they are gonna lose, obviously. Right.
Compared to how bad he got whipped by LeBron, yes.
Yeah, you know he's Judah Natsara.
So we're gonna talk about maybe. Just start there. We have some upcoming debates and discussions. I guess we'll just start right there.
Right.
So that's the first one. How many did we just mention? One or two?
We actually mentioned two. Now I know G-Man is having a debate with Israel Doctrine, but unfortunately, none of us seem to know when that debate is going to be because for whatever reason we haven't been able to get G-Man in here. Hopefully he'll come in here, he'll announce it himself, but that's the one that I don't know when the date is for.
And then I got a dialogue coming up, Zadok Ben Israel, and that's going to also be on Debate Talk for you. And have you guys, I know Faithful, you've heard about this. So Real, you heard about this? Marcus, have you heard about this?
Yeah, now I've heard about that basically that happened at the preliminary that Brother Sal had when he was trying to get everybody on. And I definitely
right.
The both of you guys conversing. I wish I could say the same thing for Judah Natsara and the Torah Knights, but unfortunately they didn't show up. Whether that's because they live in Japan or whether they just chose not to show up. I hope the same thing doesn't happen on Friday. I really do. If it does, I won't be surprised. But yeah, I mean, I definitely do look forward to you and Brother Zadok because I do want these things to kind of go from debates into deeper dialogues. I feel like there should be new avenues for 2017. If people want to take the lightning fast debates and find out, okay, what's the difference, blah, 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 they could do that. But if people want to take the scenic route, the slower route, to take the time to kind of converse back and forth and kind of talk, maybe dialogue, I think that's another alternative avenue for people who might want to take their time and get in a greater, deeper understanding, So I think that'll be good for 2017, because we definitely need to kind of mix up the variety in how we're conversing with one another. It just can't be, just a one-dimensional approach of debate. So I think that, if we take it from a different angle, we might even get into different subjects. So.
Right. Yeah, we could do this on different things. I'd like to see some more dialogues, and that's why when Sal asked me to come on the show, I asked him if I could invite Zadok with me to do this type of discussion. I think he's a perfect candidate. And it's crazy, man, just from the little preliminary snapshot Zadok and I did of what we're going to do, already I saw a positive video by a Hebrew Israelite. Faithful to God pointed out to me today, it's only about 7 or 8 minutes, and he focuses on Zadok's contribution to the conversation, of course. But nonetheless, it's good to see he was like, hey, man, this would be a good thing to see. I haven't seen enough of this. I'm glad Zadok is willing to sit down, you know, with this guy, Vocab. And it was good to hear, like, already some of that. Now, we know there's going to be, you know, some hate. Not everybody's going to be excited, but always have blood on the floor. Now, don't get me wrong. We do believe there does need to be debates, and all of us have done debates in some capacity or another. We have sort of a model in a way. I'm not saying this is always exactly like this, but Esther's, it's more of a debate model with them by and large. And when it comes to non-West type Hebrew Israelites, it's more of a dialogue discussion model. Now, debate emphasis that it needs to be uncivil discourse. That's not what I mean when I say debate with them, because I spoke with Brew, and that was a peaceful conversation 2 times, for example. And he does come out of a One West stream. And so that doesn't emphasize, you know, it has to be grimy, but it's just saying that that's the way, in general, we are going to approach it. And I think you hear good examples, you know, Brother So Real, every time he debates somebody, he's always respectful and all that. So I think we're setting some good precedent, but there's also going to be some throwdown type discussions, you know what I'm saying? Faithful and LeBron more emphasize that. We're trying to hit every angle, man, because for a long time, there's been no voice at all. Now, when the voice comes out, meaning the Christian side of things in this arena of Hebrew Israelism, and is it true or not, basically, the voices aren't just going to be one voice. Now, we speak as a crew, we speak as a team, no doubt, but we are we all have different personalities and styles, and that's how it's going to be. But the emphasis is always going to be on the gospel of Jesus. Now, real quick, can we do some general feedback on the debates we've done so far? Can I start with you, Brother Marcus? You're on the hot seat. You've done some stuff. Heard about some of the debates you've engaged in already on Debate Talk for you and some of the other formats you've been getting in on. Can you kick it off, Brother Marcus? What have you been hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing some good feedback. You know, a lot of people are interested into the discussions. You know, the debates that's going to be coming up. As far as what I did in the hot seat, I heard a lot of positive feedback on that. I mean, you know, basically every question that, you know, the brothers was asking, I guess to challenge me in a sense, it was being answered. You know, so you know, I think it went well.
Marcus, you got a crazy journey. I mean, out of all of us, we all got stories to tell, but your involvement with this initially, and now who comes out of a movement should necessarily be debating. Not everybody needs to jump into that arena. In fact, not everybody maybe is prepared to give a testimony of coming out. Now, they all do need to give a testimony to the faith in Christ, but they may not always want to go into every detail. They may not want to put that public face, all that. You know what I'm saying? Marcus, you step forward, encouraging others to step forward. There's other people who may give their testimony. They're not necessarily going to become automatically apologists for the gospel in the way that you have, but it's been a beautiful thing to see and witness. And it's like, if you think back 8 years ago, who would have thought that this is the Lord's plan for your life? But you know what is encouraging? It's the same plan for some other brothers and sisters for their life right now that are in ISUPK and GOCC and all the other camps you want to mention, from Lions of Israel to Future World of Israel to whoever's left in House of David. There are people that the Lord has in those camps he's going to draw out, and you're going to see them become evangelists for his glory. And we know that's true, not because I got to speak as a prophet, because that is the Lord's promise that he has his sheep. They hear his voice. So, what about you, So Real? What's some of the feedback you've heard from some of the debates you've been doing, man?
You know, I haven't heard much feedback on some of the debates that I've done, but you know, all the ones in the past, you know, I do get certain comments on my page. Unfortunately, I get, you know, all the raggedy kind, but then there are some, like Lita for Christ, for example, who thanks me for, you know, some debates. It seems like a lot of people enjoy my opening statements, you know, and I keep on saying this, and I'm going to say it again. Anybody right now can go and listen to any of my opening statements that I do. And usually they're so sharp that people barely kind of touch them. And that's one frustration that I personally have had with, a lot of my debates. Another frustration that I've had with, the whole debating, I guess in the Hebrew community is that, and I'm not sure if people catch this or not, but it seems that anytime that people are backed into a corner, or they don't know what to say, or they're out of words or out of scriptural ammunition, or maybe they're just plain wrong about what they're talking about, they always have emotional arguments. This means that everything that they do, they try to basically downplay the credibility of the person that they're debating. And that's one issue that I've always had. And they'll do that to the point where when they start to bring up other things, it has nothing to do with my opening statement. It has very little to do with my rebuttals. And I'll
Right.
just give you one example. I was debating somebody, I won't say their name, but they had brought up the whole notion of Christmas. And so I decided to go ahead and do a rebuttal to that, because that's basically what he brought up. Then after that, when it was his turn, he ended up saying that I'm bringing up the subject of Christmas when no one brought it up. Then in the debate, I had to rewind the tape literally and show him how he actually brought it up. And so this is the issue that I'm having. People often will just make these emotional charges. Well, Christians they don't know this, they don't know that. Oh, they've been making mistakes the whole night. You'll hear all kinds of things like that. And what it does is it manipulates the audience of going from paying attention to what the person is saying to how they're saying it. Are they charismatic enough? Are they energetic enough? Now, don't get me wrong. I think those things are important. I do. But when all of a sudden your opponent begins to put an emphasis that discredits the person, instead of attacking the arguments they're saying, you're manipulating the audience. And so now if the audience goes ahead and just listens to what you say, now all of a sudden you've emotionally won them over. And they no longer listen to me. Now they're listening to how I sound. And all of a sudden people emotionally buy in to the other person until they rewind the tape and listen to it again and be like, well, time out, dang, why did I believe him again? Oh, because you got emotionally suckered in. And that has to stop. You listen to any other kind of debating forums or any other areas, and they don't do that. They don't complain and say, oh, brother, you just don't understand. Like, you're not supposed to do that. That doesn't work. So I could go on, but like I said, I don't want to be long-winded. But in terms of the Hebrew community, that has got to stop. If you have an argument,
Yes, so
your argument.
Right. So you're talking about more, your perception of some of the things that have happened so far, and in general how it's been. Definitely agree with that, man. You make a good point. I like on that one debate you did, and the Hebrew Israelite caller called in when you was debating So Real, and he says, oh, I like the way you talk. That was a compliment, he likes the style and all that. It was good to hear. And with that, I think when you do Google Hangouts, man, you should show your face, man. I don't want to be the only one. Everybody else has got an icon up in here, and I'm just showing my face, That's all right, whatever, man. But, there we go. All right, now, nice. After you're done talking, of course. But that's all right. Just hang out with us, man. You all right. But that's good, man. Hey, I think I see LaRon's icon. LaRon, are you around? I want to get your feedback from the debates. 3, 2, 1. We'll come back to LaRon. Hey, yo, Faithful, let me get at you, man. Questions, though, Faithful. One is, what's some of the feedback you've been hearing? And also, dating Hebrew Israelites equals ex-Hebrew Israelites. I want to actually explain to people why we titled it that a little bit more. But what's about the feedback and your perception of some of the debates that have went down over the past month or two?
I think that we've won every debate, to be honest. And, I'm not saying that to be boastful. I'm just
the brother
honest.
Veckel, man, we have Veckel in there on the verge of birth, man. Yeah. I mean, we have Brother Cleveland Jones. I think
that guy, speaking of that debate, that guy went completely off topic. That was the first time I actually saw the moderator have to intervene and tell the dude to stay on topic. And as far as the debate that I did with LaRon, the 2-on-2 that we did, I mean, those guys got wiped out. I'm not saying it's again boast. I'm just I'm just saying, just from a strictly debating standpoint, they lost. Just like Amayan, he lost that debate. I mean, those debates were just beautiful examples of what we've been doing for the past few years. And it all came to fruition, you know, just us doing it in the hangout, you know, putting it all into practice, so to speak. And, you know, I got to say, I expect more of the same in the debates that we're going to be having this month. Those who don't know, you know, might have tuned in right now. The brother Marcus, he's having a debate on the 16th with Makawar. And Makawar is a one Wester, for those who want to know. And I believe on the 9th, Cyril and the brother Marcus are going to be having a 2-on-2 debate with 2 Torah-only Hebrew Israelites. One of them is Judah Natzara, the infamous Judah Natzara. I'll just say that. If anybody wants to know what I mean, you know, you can go to Absolute Bible Truths channel and check out the video that they have on him. And right, you know what I'm saying? That's all I'll say about that. Yeah, you know, and of course your discussion with Judah Zadok Ben-Israel. Right, and also G-Man. And again, G-Man, if you're watching this, please let us know when your debate is.
I see it. What's the purpose of the law? Israel Doctrine versus G-Man. It's actually this Thursday, 6 o'clock East Coast time on Debate Talk for You.
That's what's up. So check that out on Debate Talk for You. Of course, I'm going to try to live stream it if I can. And shout out to Sal Showtime for, you know, being such a gracious host and allowing us the opportunity to use this platform to really, you know, expose the heresies and the problems that a lot of these doctrines present, you know, from the Hebrew Israelite side. But anyways, that's all I got to say about that, man. You know,
we're working on another one. I see, and on that one, I'm gonna have somebody with me that not everybody will know. Good addition. It's the brother Tony from Hazakim. Some of y'all know who that is. But on the Torah nights, if I'm not mistaken, man, are the same. Just debating all that. It looks like they make comic books. And I'm highly interested in this. I would like to see somebody comic books, if they know about some of these comic books, you know what I'm saying? Because I like comics. There's a cover of one of them. And there's here's one called Torah Nights Queen. Torah Nights Queens. Grab this exciting Torah Queen comic. And so there's some other ones that looks like as well. I want to order some of these. Some of the prices are a little bit steep for just a book that I'm not sure about yet, but I'm going to check more. But you can find this on Amazon. So this is a free promotion, really. I mean, well, you can't see, it's all blurry, but you can find it on Amazon.
And stuff.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff on here. Calculate 7 Warriors Killers by Romulus. Trapezoonians, Codename Queens in High Definition. Torah Knights, The Dark Secret. Origins, Kadamalabawa Origins Volume 2. Botak. Rise and Fall of Power, Omega 2000. And these are all 2015, 2016. I'm curious what's up in there. Real quick story on this different note. Talbot School of Theology is connected to the undergrad school called Biola. Last January, when I was in the LA area visiting there for my doctoral project, I went into the library, saw a sign that said New Christian Comics Archive Collection, private collection donated over 500 Christian comics. I was interested in that, so I went to the archive section. You know, you got to go in the basement of the library. It's really trippy. And the librarian comes out with these special gloves, and you can only hold one at a time, and they hand it to you like this, and they're all in these cases. It's trippy, man. But I'm going through them, and I'm like, all right, let me look at this one, you know what I'm saying? I could not find, by the way, Tom Skinner Up from Harlem, which you got to get that. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, you got to get Tom Skinner Up from Harlem. It's kind of expensive, I think, now to get it. But, yo, all of a sudden I come upon one on the front, man. He's got a big old afro. I'm like, okay. Moses is on the front. He's got an afro with a part in it. I'm looking at this. I start opening up some of the pages. I see on it. I see dudes flying. I'm like, wait, this art looks like wildly familiar. I look, man, they got a Hebrew Israelite comic published like in the early 2000s out of Philly or something. What? Anyways, man, in the Talbot library, it's down there, and it was in the Christian Comics collection. I want to get a hold of that, man. It looks like he had a whole series plan, this independent illustrator. I was pretty interested by it, but I'm just saying, man, the art was pretty trippy. I mean, they were definitely superheroes all the way. I did take some photographs. Somebody's commenting. I do have some photos. Talbot kind of says I can't show them publicly, but I can let some of y'all see them because it's pretty interesting. All right, now, and I'm going to come to G-Con in a second. We titled this Debating Hebrew Israelites equals Ex-Hebrew Israelites is because this all started with the James White debate in a way, in the sense of we started for the first time hearing kind of a miniature flood of people who had left various camps, and one of the final straws or something that began their journey a lot of times was actually hearing Rakar speak with James White. And so that was pretty interesting to hear that. Who's calling me? If I answer, I think it'll make me go out of the call, so I don't know what to do. But that's one of the reasons, man, we did that and titled it that way. And since then, we've had a number of people come and speak to us. And I'd like to make a miniature sense. If you are like or know somebody, especially who's come out recently, we would love to hear from you. We're not going to mention everybody's name. We're not going to put everybody in blast. But if you've come out, and especially if since then you've embraced the gospel of Jesus Christ, especially those kind of testimonies, we'd love to hear your story, maybe even see if we can get you some help in your local area with some brothers and sisters to link up with. But let me just say, I look forward to the day through YouTube and you see interviews, not just with ex-IUIC members, ex-GOCC members, because we've already got those covered, but guess what's going to happen, y'all? With ex-ISUPK members. There's going to be interviews with ex-leaders from the 90s of the schools. Well, we've kind of sort of done some of that. I'm just saying, my point is you get the vision X of all kinds of people, man, and you're going to see some of them who have embraced the gospel of Jesus Christ since they've come out. And it's going to be some powerful testimonies to hear how the Lord was working. Because the Hebrew Israelites, a lot of times, have been spinning our activities, what we've been doing, as it's fulfilling prophecy, and they don't realize it's just making people more interested in the camps. I don't know if that's the case or not. Regardless, we're supposed to be faithful in our calling to defend this gospel that's been once down, you know what I'm saying, to the saints. So we got to do that no matter what the result is of how God shakes it out. That's up to him. But it's where there's been an uptick and a rise in Hebrew Israelites. We've seen the opposite, where people are coming out from this stuff, and we believe there's going to be more because finally a voice from the community is answering back. No longer do they have a free pass just to speak into a void their words and not have those words challenged. So the days where the Hebrew Israelites are professors on the streets are going to be coming to an end because they're going to have challenges not only on the street but on the internet and even in the ears and minds of the listeners. They'll be like, you know what, he's saying that, but I heard a contradictory thing to that. Y'all, it's starting, it's not going to stop. So y'all Hebrew Israelites can spin it however you want, spin it however they want, but we see what we see, and we're not going to stop. And we're not fighting against the Most High. I mean, that's what y'all are talking about? Come on, man. But G-Con, what's been your reaction and some feedback and response you've been hearing from some of these debates we've been doing as well? I think you're in the mix now, G-Con.
Yeah. Yes. Can y'all hear me clearly?
What you been hearing? What you been hearing?
Man, I've been getting some great feedback. You know, I've been getting people that's been emailing me, inboxing me. You know, people emailing about Faithful, people emailing about me, people emailing about getting in contact with So Real. So, man, it's been some great feedback, a lot of things going on. I've been having people from the UK, you know, people from all over, you know, international inboxing me, you know. So it's been a great thing. I think that the information that we putting out, you know, it's changing lives, as well as, you know, how we debate. You know, we all got our different styles. You know, we know the scripture, we have humility. So I definitely think that it's been great, man. And you know, I've been getting lots of feedback. So I got so much on my plate right now, you know, and it's just continuing running over. People just inboxing me and, you know, trying
you
to
couldn't agree out, brother.
contact me to do certain things.
G-Con, you are cutting out.
You know,
Hey, yo,
I
G-Con, can you hear me? Can you mute his mic for a second? Faithful, I'd hate to do that. Can you mute him for just a second? Can you text him through? Let him know he's cutting out a little. See if he can get in better area or something like that.
We stay prayed up. Make sure.
Hey, Faithful.
Oh, yep. I already muted him. I do apologize for the technical difficulties.
All right, man. Hey, G-Con, hit us up when you're in a more clear area. So, do is review a little bit of the debates we've done. A lot of them are on Debate Talk for You. And we really encourage people to go check those out. This is like groundbreaking stuff. These debates in this format, done at this level in this caliber, and now we're trying to blaze also another path at the same time, which is good, healthy discussion and dialogue with brothers like Zadok ben Israel, a non-one Wester who identifies as a Hebrew Israelite, a Nazarene, or even a Christian, and we think we can have productive dialogue with people like that. And even, yes, some one Westers, if they can kind of shake loose the one West vibe of, yo, I'm going to curse you out because Paul was rude of speech type of thing, which is a total misuse of that scripture. Of course, everybody knows that. But I think we went around. Oh, Veckel, yeah. What? You're in the house. Hey, yo, Veckel, what feedback have you heard from the debates or the debate you've done, or maybe your thoughts on what's happened before we jump into the next thing we're going to discuss here tonight? Veckel, I'd like to hear what you got to say.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much regarding debate, except from people within our circles. Yeah, but just like Faithful said earlier, it was pretty much a dog's lunch for my opponent. I mean, it's really bad when you have to have Sal Showtime jump in, like Faithful brought up already, which I've never seen before in any debate. Him have to actually interrupt the discussion because one of the participants wasn't staying on topic. And I have to say that even prior to the debate itself, it was pretty painful to do research on the material that he that he teaches anyway. So, but other than that, no, I haven't really heard too much from anything. I haven't really been paying attention, to be honest with you. I got a lot on my plate as well. Yeah, but I just want to give kudos though and praise God for the outstanding work that Faithful and G-Con did in that one discussion where it was 2-on-2. Outstanding. Yeah. I mean, not only were they backing up with scripture, but they were preaching with power. And right. It was so entertaining. It was probably one of the most entertaining debates, discussions, whatever you want to call that I've listened to on Debate Talk for You. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more of that, those kinds of discussions in that caliber. So outstanding. Highly recommend everyone to see that discussion. So, but other than that, yeah, that's it. Haven't really been getting too much feedback. So.
Agreed, man. And someone just mentioned a comment in the side chat. I want to mention something real quick. They said, "Hey, you should stop calling them Hebrew Israelites. Call them so-called Hebrew Israelites." Well, let me speak to that for a second. When we type it out, a lot of times, at least I'll put quotation marks around it, as in it gets wordy to say so-called Hebrew Israelites, but of course it's more accurate. Or sometimes you'll hear Faithful say Hebrew Israelite proponents. Sometimes we'll say advocates or those who identify as Hebrew Israelites, something like that. However, I think you're going to start to see more and more using this type of language. The problem is we have to constantly explain it. So it's going to be a trickle in the vocabulary. And again, man, telling you what we're doing and why we're doing it when I've dropped this stuff. You're going to hear us more and more speak of one Westers, non-one Westers. Now, actually, I'd like to hear Abu. That's a perfect transition to explain. Abu, you've been doing this for a hot minute. Explain the logic why we use this terminology, one Wester or perhaps non-one Wester, and why you believe it's better and more precise. And then we're going to get into our next topic. Abu, are you up in here? Can I hear you? Can anyone hear Abu? I'm not hearing Abu.
Abu,
nope.
Where you at, bro?
I see him on there. Hey, Abu, trying to speak.
You're gonna need some headphones, by the way.
Yeah, you need some headphones plugged into something. If not, man, call my phone and then I'll put you up to the speaker if that's not gonna work. Can one of y'all brothers instead, I guess, answer that next question real quick? Gee.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the terminology real quick. I personally think that they do this because a lot of them are craving identity, cultural identity. That's a real issue, and that's where the backwash of all this. Oh, what is your name? What is your nationality? What is this? They want to belong, and so to them, a name means everything. But the issue I take with it is this: at first, you called yourself Black Hebrew Israelites because it was in contrast to people who you said that were not Israelites, right? The white Jews and things like that. But now you're going to cut the black off, and now you're just going to call yourselves Hebrew Israelites. Now, I have a little theory. You know, I think that in the future, since they've done that, I think that in the future, mark my words, I think there are going to be white Hebrew Israelites because they cut the black off. Now anybody could be a Hebrew Israelite. You know, the moment that you say
we already have white Hebrew Israelites. That's British Israelism.
Say it again.
Yeah, we got those. We got white Hebrew Israelites, all the British Israelite and Anglo-Israelites who, you know, you've been studying them so real that they kind of beat the One West camps to the punch, really. When it comes to this, but
you know what? I'll say this once and I'll say it again. British Israelism is kind of where this whole thing kind of started. And then from there, you had Zionism that popped up in the 1850s and 1880s. And then after that, you had the Christian identity movement that grew out of the British Israelism movement, which started a radicalized version of the whole Jacob and Esau thing. And the guy who actually started that actually got it from a rabbi in the 11th century, I think. And no, it was in the 9th century. You know, and it was basically a Jewish mystical version or take on the seed of Adam and the seed of Satan. And he basically used that to radicalize some idea that the Jews were from the seed of Satan and they were from the seed of Adam. You know, and even from there, from the 1930s all the way to 1960s, that's when you had this whole thing about the Hebrew Israelites really kind of taking a more of a Abba Bivens type of stand. And so the fact that you had all these theologies swimming around for centuries, you mean to tell me that these kind of things all of a sudden start creeping into the Black Hebrew Israelite cults? Please, I can't even accept that for a second. You have all these theologies that have been all around you all this time, and you mean to tell me you came up with that on your own? No, stop lying. You've parasited basically a KKK version of your own theology. As a matter of fact, a lot of KKK members were from the Christian identity movement. This is why I think it's so theologically hypocritical for them to actually hold the same theologies as any Christian identity or British Israeli movement, you know. And then from there, in the 1960s, you had the Messianics, and then from the 1990s, you had the Hebrew Roots movement. And I even caught a Hebrew Israelite, and I won't say his name right now, but I did debate him. But he said the same argument that I found in the mouth of a Hebrew Roots debater. You know, it was some dude, a very well-known Hebrew Roots debater. He's in his 50s or 60s, and he uses the same argument about how the Israelites or the Christians had to slowly be crept back into the laws of Moses and circumcision. And that the problem was that they were doing it too quickly. That was the same argument.
There's, in the urban environment, there's always been, especially at the Advent sort of post-Depression era, a highly syncretic culture in a sense that there's a blending aspect, especially in urban religious environments. It really took place with the advent of the industrial age and post-Civil War and all this. And there's been some books.
I was just going to say
an old school book that actually documented, called Black Gods of the Metropolis. It's written back in the day, man. It's got stuff on Daddy Grace, you know what I'm saying, Moorish temple science. It's got what is referred to in here, chapter 4, Church of God, Black Jews. And then they did an updated version of that called Gods. And these, you know what I'm saying, this is on Indiana University Press. And there's another similar book in a sense called The Black Spiritual Movement that documents these types of similar things as well. There's a number of other books of these, and they show the sort of syncretic nature, you know, blending it together type thing that goes on. And this is what you got with Hebrew Israelism as well. And I'd like to switch back. Boo, let's see if you're all good. Why do we want to switch more and more to using the term one Wester or non-one Wester as we do this dialogue and develop apologetic lingo and all of that? Abu, are you in there? Good. You were a little bit. What happened?
Wait. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Break it down.
All right. So
yes, loud and clear.
Okay, very good, very good. Alhamdulillah. So the significance of the one Wester designation. I used to say UPK before. I think one Wester is a better term. If I'm not mistaken, it was coined by Faithful. First off, the Hebrew Israelite movement is so diverse. They have almost nothing in common, even though they don't like to be referred to as quote unquote BHIs. The only thing that the groups designated that way have in common is the belief that African Americans or the African diaspora are Israelites. Other than that, literally everything is up for grabs. You know, some believe in the New Testament, some don't, some different versions of Hebrew, some affirm the virgin birth, some don't, some affirm the divinity of Christ. Everything is up for grabs. And literally anything is possible within that paradigm. I mean, I years ago encountered a charismatic group. They were essentially Pentecostals, but they also believed they were Israelites. In Camden, I encountered this. So literally anything is possible, and we're going to see more variations of that. But so the thing is, with one Wester, it refers specifically to those groups which descend ideologically from One West 125th Street, from the old ICUPK or ISUPK, not referring specifically to Johanna's group, which is the revamped version, the refurbished version, as they recently were called in that Purple Rain song. There's all these groups, and these are the groups that are most vocal. While there's lots and lots and lots of different little Israelite factions out there, the people that you encounter on the street, which are the people that are generating attention and interest in Israelites, are these quote-unquote Israelites, are these UPK groups, these one Wester groups. That also, this would be GMS, this would be IUIC and GOCC to a lesser extent, the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ, even though people pretended that they're so far out that they're not significant anymore. I don't know. I think the focus should, well, let me rephrase that. I'm not going to tell anybody what their focus should be on, but how can I put this? That's one possible focus. You know, there's specifically one Western groups. I'll hand this off to anyone else.
Yeah, and so the thing is, with that term, saying an old One West breakdown or calling someone a One Wester, the problem is, as of now, it doesn't have a lot of resonance in the hearers that are not familiar with some of the backstory behind Hebrew Israelism. They hear One Wester and they don't know what you're talking about. Now, they know the term Hebrew Israelite, or more likely BHI or Black Hebrew Israelite, but we want to be more precise, because I don't want people to equate Israel of God with ISUPK. I don't want people to get Zadok ben Israel and what he's doing in Buffalo confused. Mess. It doesn't really. It's kind of like when you talk. If somebody wanted to critique Calvinism and critique Reformed theology, but they just started talking about Christians in general, and they kept on talking about T.D. Jakes and Joel Osteen and Joyce Meyer and Paula White, you'd be like, what? And so we're trying to get more precise, man. Now, some of the camps are going to buck against this. They're not going to like this type of designation when they hear words like One West Israelism or One West style or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. We're trying to be precise because by and large, we don't buy your presupposition that you're Hebrew or an Israelite. You guys understand? That's why. So it's not like we have to buy in your presupposition just because you want to call yourself that. And so we want to get something more accurate that really reflects the belief structure and belief system. Anybody else want to comment on that? Because you're going to hear us using those terminologies more, and we're going to develop more precise lingo as we go along, man. But, you know, when you talk about dealing with atheists, there's like an established tradition within Christian apologetics that's been going on for a minute, and there's all kinds of in and outs, you know what I'm saying? The discussion's been had, and there's certain terminologies and debates and illustrations. This is brand new. So we're trying to forge this and be careful as we go along, and so you are going to see development. Guess what? You know, just a side note, you're going to see some of the Hebrew Israelite arguments changing, because already, so real, didn't you notice these guys start changing some of their interpretations in Deuteronomy 28 after some of our arguments against their interpretation on Deuteronomy 28 have come out? Right when I asked So Real, he just dropped out. But we've heard some differences in how they use it. They're trying to get mildly more subtle with some of their counter rebuttals. And Brother Kadash pointed this out. And so we are going to see some changes because some of the House of Cards is going to.
Well, we're starting to see that now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
I mean,
we are. And I think we're going to see more.
Like, for example, real quick, one of the things we're seeing is GOCC denying reincarnation now. I mean, back when I was starting to get into, first started looking into the Hebrew Israelitism, GOCC was into reincarnation, I think, as far as I remember.
That's interesting, because I feel like they were anti-reincarnation almost right out the gate. Because I remember back when they were Light and Body Church, it seemed like they were already starting to undermine it. That was I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't paid really close attention.
I could be wrong too. But I do know that aren't there still some groups that accept it, though, that teach reincarnation?
Oh, absolutely. Most of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the ICGJC still believes in reincarnation, and that's one of the big questions that comes up. Is all the other groups deny hell? They deny a literal hell. So the ICGJC has accepted hell, and one of the questions their rivals have asked is, how do you reconcile belief in hell with belief in reincarnation?
You know what? Let me recant that, because I might be getting the two groups mixed up then. Because again, back then they all seemed the same to me back then, so I might be getting it mixed up with another group, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you know, let me get back to you on that.
Actually, wait, did you say GOCC or IUIC? Because I might have misheard you.
GOCC. Okay, yeah. So, but yeah.
Well, I know IUIC. You know, they, of course, they're not going to come out and say that they believe in reincarnation, but essentially, when you listen to what they teach, it basically is reincarnation. You know, they basically believe that when you die, you know, you come back in another body. Basically, they say regenerated. You know, they don't understand what regeneration is. They believe that regeneration is basically like, you know, reincarnation. Your spirit is basically sent back into another body and you live another life or whatnot.
Yeah, and you know, but Veckel, that's a good point in general, and that's part of the point with this whole One West terminology, is you see a lot of the camps moving away or modifying One West doctrines, but they're still key distinctive One West doctrines. So reincarnation is a One West doctrine within this Hebrew Israelite movement, but now you see some of the camps tinkering with it. You see them tinkering with stuff, and I think your point is you will see them more tinker more. I was saying something mildly different. They're making some minor adjustments to some of their exegetical arguments in relationship or response to some of the arguments that brothers like Faithful to God have been putting forward. And it'll be interesting to see all this. It's like the wild, wild west of doctrine and theology, man, when it comes to Hebrew Israelites. Now let's turn the corner with this. Ooh.
I was just going to say, I've seen some of the changes with GMS. Their rivals have pointed out their little contradictions that they've come up with, like Tahar used to teach that you're only reincarnated in your father's line. So, you know, if your father, you know, if you were a Judite, in past lives, you're always going to be a Judite. And then when it came out that he was claiming to be the Apostle Paul. He never really affirmed that, but he also said you can be reincarnated in other tribes and other lines, and it seemed real convenient that he brought out that new rule.
Yeah, because if don't they say he's supposed to be Levi?
Precisely. Yeah.
Ain't that right? Yeah. So if he's Levi, how's he gonna be the Apostle Paul reincarnated? Because Paul's a Benjamin. Hey man, you know what's funny? They talk about web.
I just caught that right now. You know, I didn't know that he's a quote unquote Levite, and yet he's the Apostle Paul.
He's your tribe of Levi. You know what's funny though, man? They talk about, you know, Marcus. They try to call you, you know, talk about web of lies, web of deceit. But man, they the ones in this web. You know, it's all like, and once you weave it, man, I mean, you guys see what's going on. It's like you push something over here and it falls over there. You know, they're like. You know, you heard a little story with the little boy putting his finger in the dike. You know, he's trying to hold off the water from busting through. Man, they like trying to poke it all the time, man. But it ain't gonna work, man. There's only so many fingers, and there's a lot more holes than there are fingers. Now let's look at this, man. Abu recently. Well, I discovered it back in January. I don't want to give the name yet of the person who wrote it, if that's okay, because I want to do a future show on this, but. I want to pretty much say everything else about it. Abu, what did I recently send to you, and why is it significant? This is a big deal, y'all. Listen up. If you listen to this, go ahead, man.
So it's a dissertation, if I'm not mistaken. It's a doctoral dissertation, or is it a master's? It's a doctoral dissertation. Some PhD student at Center State, I believe. It's right. It's in Ohio.
He went there. He went there prior to writing this, but this is a doctor of philosophy, PhD is what that is, at Temple.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And it's about, honestly, it's a very personal testimony, but he's a former member of One West before all the splits. He's a former, he calls it the ISUPK. I'm pretty sure it was called ICUPK when he was there, because he talks about the first Passover he attended was in 1995, which was the huge one, you know, which had all these celebrities there and whatnot. But yeah, he so it's someone it's the first time I've ever seen this. It's academic literature that gets into distinctly One West related stuff. So he gets into Lashon Kodash, he gets into the 12 tribes breakdown, he gets into a lot of stuff that's very much to the Edomite doctrine. And you know, it's good to see that, because the thing is, when you try and write about One West Israelites, what happens is there's nothing you can refer to in terms of already established literature. So that's good. It's significant. And also is fascinating. This is the first time I've seen this with a One Wester. He leaves the whole One West paradigm and has embraced mainstream Judaism. He's a convert at a conservative temple, and he covers that in his dissertation as well. It's a fascinating piece.
I'm going to read part of this, because you just mentioned about that Passover. I'm going to read part of this. This is going to be a little, because I want to give you a flavor, because the reason why we're talking about this right now, everybody, is that in a future hangout or some kind of future discussion, man, we're going to get into this and break down this, because there's at least 30 pages that we need to directly discuss out of the hundreds of pages of this doctoral project, or this thesis here, man. Let me read this. Read it. When I arrived in New York, I was overtaken by the size and speed of the city, but nothing to prepare for me what I'd see that night. The Passover celebration was being held in a large congregation hall not far from the camp. 5. He's talking about the UPK Passover. When I walked in, there were Israelites everywhere, all dressed in bedazzled and studded garments, greeting each other with the phrase, Yahweh Basham, Yahweh Shai, Barakatah. God, in the name of Jesus, bless you. Men had long braided cornrows with large, thick black beards. The women wore long blue jean skirts with studs and rhinestones in the shape of the Star of David. On the stage were the leaders, with King David, Meshach, and High Priest Yaquab at the center of a table with 12 priests looking like a living Last Supper painting. Little did I know I was participating in my first Seder festive meal, as we were told to eat shredded lamb, horseradish chips, matzah, and drink cups of wine. On periodically, announcements from the priest would blare out from the PA system. Now listen to this part, y'all, about the various celebrities who were in attendance, such as the RZA from the hip-hop group Wu-Tang Clan. I could just see that blaring out, you know, during this Passover. During that night, I met Israelites from all over the country and the world as UPK members from the United Kingdom, the Caribbean, and Latin America, all in attendance. I met a Mexican Indian by the Issachar, which incidentally, by the name Issachar, which incidentally was his tribal affiliation, who explained how the UPK breakdowns made sense to him, and he immediately joined 5 years ago. Contrary to how I would later see the UPK portrayed in the popular media as a black hate group, this collection of people was a cornucopia of ethnicities and nationalities, all joined by the conviction that they represented the true nation of Israel. And so that's a section of it, because part of what he does is what's called autoethnography. Somebody's giving me feedback. Somebody's gonna mute themselves. Is that just me, or did you guys hear that? Autoethnography, this idea of ethnographic studies, have to do with studies of ethnicity and culture, and autoethnography is kind of his own journey and whatever. Can you maybe say one or two other things, maybe some key things that you read through this, or maybe things that you really want to explore later? Anything else about this dissertation? Because we're going to get much deep into this later, but right now we're just letting people know we found it and crazy.
Well, I mean, the two things that stood out for me, one, he said that the Israelites had a fairly decent, UPKers, specifically One Westers, as we call them now, had a fairly significant presence at Center State University in Ohio. That's number one. Number two, for me, I mean, honestly, one of the big interests for me with One Westers is Lashawan Kodash. And he gets into that a little bit. I wish he had done more, but it's great to have a piece where he's getting into it, you know, where he starts to lay some of it out, you know. So now it's sort of out there in academia now. People know that this.
What about this idea that he calls what he refers to as the Edomite myth? He calls it a midrash. Why do you think that's significant?
Well, I mean, because honestly, that's really what it is. It's not something that's obvious from the text. It's, you know, it's as much as, you know, One Westers like to pretend that it's so obvious, it really is an interpretation of the text. So it does read like a sort of, it's a One Wester midrash in that sense, that it's, you know, they have the text and then they have their explanation of the text. On top of that, as someone else mentioned earlier in this hangout, there is a little bit of rabbinic literature that goes that route, you know, that they don't go the route of saying specifically that quote unquote whites are Edomites, but you'll see in rabbinic literature that a lot of the elites in Rome are treated as Edomites,
right.
and to ridiculous degrees. I remember there's even a passage, if I'm not mistaken, in the Talmud where I think it's Marcus Aurelius. It's one of the emperors would come and he would like grovel at the feet of one of the rabbis and ask him to step on him, and he would like quote Obadiah while he would do this and stuff like this. Just bizarre. But yeah, anyway, the point is that this concept, it really is sort of a midrashic approach within certain wings of the rabbinic corpora, you know, and so, but it is interesting to see him refer to it as that.
Didn't you think he did a good job of describing the teacher-reader scenario and how it works as a didactic tool? Do you remember that section where he's speaking about how they do that? I thought he did a good job describing that. Somebody who's maybe never seen it. I don't know if you remember that section. And then another section I wanted to comment on is it was so interesting how he speaks how easy it was to kind of join up. You kind of just recognize supposedly you are what you are. There's no kind of official conversion process or baptism or anything like that.
Yeah, and the most interesting of faith. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, no, I wanted to get your feedback. That's why I was bringing those up. Can you say something about any of those or something else that jumped out to you? And I'm going to mention one other thing before we move on.
No, just that. I mean, that is an interesting point that he pointed out, how easy it was to go in. There's no conversion process like there is in Judaism, which he himself went through when he converted to Judaism afterwards. And there's no even like a public testimony of faith like there is in Islam. You know, when you go to the masjid, certain interpretations will have you at the masjid with witnesses and you're reciting the Shahada or something like that. But yeah, he said it's just basically you accept it and that's it and you're in. And then, you know, there's the process of rapidly accepting what they teach. But yeah.
All right, on that note, I'm going to read this last part right here, okay? And this is his recollection dialogue went when his Hebrew name was chosen. After a study session, a brother said, what's your Hebrew name? One yet. Peraza. Me. I don't know. Peraza. Well, you are a quiet brother. spirit. Hey, motioning to another guy. Give me that strong concordance over there.
Cav, you're
thumbing through the Hebrew English lexicon.
You're cutting in and out a little bit. You're cutting in and out a little bit.
I am. Abu, do you have that part? Can you read it instead? I don't know. Am I cutting out really that bad?
If you can hear me, I'll read it out. No problem. As it goes, the guy Peraza says to him, he says, well, you're a quiet brother. You have a real quiet spirit. And then he says, hey, motioning to someone named Tazapawan, give me that Strong's Concordance over there. Then he starts thumbing through it, and he says, what's the word for quiet spirit? He says, after a few minutes, Peraza looks out at me and says, well, the word for quiet is sha'an, and the word for spirit is racha. So how about sha'an racha? And the gentleman who's writing this dissertation recounts that he responded, okay, that sounds fine to me. And that remained his Hebrew name right up until he converted to rabbinic Judaism. It's interesting that they're dipping into because those are their only sources. When they pick Hebrew names, usually it's either Strong's Concordance or the Ben Yehuda dictionary, the little Ben Eliezer Ben Yehuda pocket Hebrew English dictionary, which it produces some interesting results. I remember I met a guy. He was calling himself Hathamakar Chachma or something like that. And he was saying, oh, it means addicted to wisdom or something like that.
Sound like somebody trying to clear their throat. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Dig that. Well, that's the Lashuan Kodash gets them. It's all, yeah. Yeah.
You can tell me your name, but you ain't got to be spitting on me.
Yeah.
Hey, but do you find that to be an interesting story? Some of that, I'm curious about your reaction as we read some of that dissertation selection. I don't know if you got anything to say about that. Are you up in here, Marcus?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's real interesting, and that it's crazy. The details that he kind of goes into. I mean, a lot of those things I definitely saw firsthand. I experienced that on my own when I was a part of, when I was within the movement. I definitely can relate to those things that he's talking about.
All right, man. Well, that's also a good place to do this. Listen, I'm going to reset my computer. It looks like I'm having some connection issues, but this last part of the discussion, I believe the last part of the discussion we wanted to have is make some preliminary notes about the video where they're coming after Marcus again, specifically Nathaniel, this time IUIC, and maybe we can have a little bit of discussion about not the whole thing, because we're going to do that in a future broadcast, but maybe just that some of the scriptures or about some of the key things we think we want to discuss a little bit, the law.
Well, how about this? Before we do that, I'm going to give G-Man a chance to speak in this way, because he just came in, and I wanted him to kind of share what he's going to do in his debate with Israel Doctrine. I believe they're having a debate on Thursday. Is that correct, G-Man?
Yeah, it's going to be on the 8th. We're going to be debating Israel Doctrine on what the purpose of the law is going to be. I know at the end of the day, the whole conversation is going to come down to: are we saved by grace through faith alone, or are we justified by the law? My argument is simply going to be that the law pointed to Christ in the new covenant that we would have under Christ. The law was never given to Israel for the purposes of making them righteous, or the purpose of their sanctification or whatever. That law was given to Israel to show them their need for a savior, which was Jesus Christ. And as confusing as he is going to try to argue, number one, that the law was not given to Israel, that it was given to the strangers and Israel, which is a bunch of nonsense. Everyone who's got any kind of studying whatsoever knows that the law was given to Israel. Number two, he's going to try to secretly argue that as well as other people's righteousness comes from obedience to that law, even though the Bible says the exact opposite. And, during my debate, I'm just going to point out why he's wrong about that. I got some strategies about how I'm going to do that. I don't want to go into it all right now, because if I do, then he'll be prepared, and I don't want him to be prepared. But I will say this, though. Israel Doctrine believes in a lot of heretical mumbo jumbo that isn't biblical and isn't true. And he's going to get exposed on Debate Talk for You in a really embarrassing way.
All right, and that is again Thursday the 8th on Debate Talk for You. Hopefully, I'll be live streaming that, so anybody who wants to watch it, they can definitely watch it on this channel. Again, I want to give a shout out to Sal Showtime for the platform. At the same time, oh yeah, go right ahead, man. Go right ahead, man.
All right, I want to encourage as many people as possible to call into the show and to question doctrine on the idea that the law was not given to Israel. It's just ridiculous that he believes that that law was given to Israel and someone else, even though in Exodus chapter 19 it says in black and white that these are the commands you're supposed to give to the nation of Israel, not the Egyptians, not the sojourners who was with them or anything like that. It was given to Israel for a specific purpose. And I'm telling you, I'm going to grill him on that. And I would encourage those of you who are watching right now to call into the show to grill him, because if you try to grill me, Exodus 19 verses 5 and 6, you know, that law was given to Israel. All right.
So we got Vocab back now. Vocab, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear y'all.
All right. So I'm gonna hand it back over to you, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for that, G, man. Sorry I missed some of it though. But yo, man, LeBron, I know earlier you dropped out. Before we talk about this last part, I want to make sure I give you a chance to have the microphone again to maybe finish up what you're saying or comment on what we've said since you came in and out. Are you up in there, G-Con?
Yes, sir. Yep. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, speak your piece, man. I want to hear what you say about everything we've been talking about and about what you were saying earlier, if you can, brother.
Yeah, you know, it's I got a lot of feedback. You know, I get a lot of people inboxing me. You know, some of it is good. You know, some of it is from the brothers, you know, just dealing with the Hebrew Israelite ideology or perspective. I'm sorry. And so, you know, and I also get some good feedback. I got people that's, you know, from the UK and also from, you know, all over the world just inboxing me, and, you know, they want to hear from us. They're praying for us. They're rooting for us. You know, they always talking about, you know, getting in contact with So Real and Faithful, you know, just as well as myself and other people, you know. So, you know, got a gang of sisters that's Christians, that's, you know, rooting and praying for us, you know, and they watch us. And a lot of people that's reaching out, that's coming up out of it, you know, and their husbands are in it, you know, and they're trying to get, you know, me to speak to their husbands and different, all types of stuff. So, you know, just make sure you guys continue to have us in you guys' prayers, lift us up, you know. But it's been good feedback, all good feedback, you know. Just got to get the time to basically deal with a lot of the stuff that's on the table, because it's a lot of things that's there, opportunities, and not just opportunities, but you know, different ways to minister the word that's there, and just gotta get the time. So that's what I'm working on right now, is just getting this time and to really go into the full-time aspect of doing it. And so I just want to say thanks to everybody out there. Peace and blessings to your family, to your household. Continue to lift soldiers of God up, and we're gonna keep on moving for the Lord.
No doubt, man. Thanks, G-Con. Good piece. Hey, yo, Abu, I didn't really get a chance to ask you this, and then I'm gonna switch over to Marcus to talk a little bit about this video, just preliminary thoughts. But Abu, let me ask you this first, real quick. What's happening now with these debates? What's your thoughts on it? Because you were seeing stuff all the way back in the 90s, and you guys tried to do some of these things, is my understanding. But what's your thought about what's been happening recently, really just even with the past 2 months, but maybe the past, you know, year? What are your thoughts as a long-time observer of One West doctrine?
Well, they've wanted attention for a long time, and all the One Western groups have spent a long time teaching that the world is afraid of them, that even the top scholars of the world are afraid of them, and no one can stand before them. GMS used to say this. I see GJC used to say this, you know. And they're finally getting the attention that they've been asking for. And what I'm seeing is very quickly trying to, I mean, a lot of them are trying to run. That's what I'm seeing. There's a lot of boasting and a lot of them trying to address arguments within their echo chambers, but there's an unwillingness to, it seems. That's what I'm witnessing. I mean, how many of them are actually taking parts in these debates? Well, for example, I think one of the most glaring examples of this was when you invited Tahar to dialogue with Dr. White. Now, Tahar is, you know, for a long time has been saying he's the only one with the truth. GMS is the only one with the truth. They have 100% truth, and nobody can stand with them. He doesn't care who you are. You could be the Pope, whatever. And then all of a sudden, he's not interested in that sort of dialogue. And I think, you also see this in this forum that you set up. We saw this, myself and Khadash, we saw this in the Truth After Knowledge forum on Yahoo groups years ago, that a lot of them did not want to take part in the discussions. And I think that's basically what we see in the forum that you set up on Facebook, where you have there's a lot of non-One Westers in that forum, and there's a lot of One Westers who sort of just like lurk and read, you know, they're sort of like wallflowers, but they're not really taking part. And I find that interesting. That's my impression, that most of them are getting, they don't want to take part. That's really the impression I get.
Can I please say something about this?
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead, man.
Concerning the One Westers, who's that, brother Abu? You're 100% on the money with that, man. The One Westers are running scared for their life, and the reason why I can say this is because, not because of what you guys are doing on Debate Talk for You, not because of what Faithful is doing on his channel, and what the rest of you are doing on your respectful channels, and what you're doing, Vocab Malone. But it's because if you go out there in person, in public, and you meet them face to face, they don't got to the point they don't want you recording you. I'm sorry, that they don't want you recording them. They don't want to answer questions. They will put umbrellas in your faces. They'll try to tell you to go talk to this camp. We don't want to talk to you. These people are not scholars. They don't got no answers. They don't like answering questions. And it's not like I'm asking difficult questions like, what's the gospel? How is a person saved? What does it mean to be righteous? What is sanctification? Like, they don't even understand the very basics of what it is that we talk about in the church. So, yeah, they're running scared from the top to the bottom. I have an advertisement that I have running right now on Debate Talk for You. I'm sure a lot of you heard it, where I offered these guys $100 per hour to come on my YouTube channel. My subscribers would gladly pay to see one of us debate one of those guys, Captain Tazariot, General Yohana, et cetera, the guys with influence. But and the real purpose of doing that is to show what kind of cowards that they are. You know what I mean? We know that they're not going to take money because they don't want to look like people like they don't want to look like the kind of people that's doing this for the money. But if you got the truth and you guys are so good and you have like all these scholars and whatnot, you should be able to go on a platform like Debate Talk for You, or on James White's channel, or what Vocab is doing with the radio show, or Faithful to God's channel, and come here and wipe the floor with us if you have the truth. If you don't got the truth, shut up, repent, and come to Jesus Christ for real. And that's my attitude when I talk to the Hebrew Israelites, when they're boasting and bragging about how they got the truth and how we're nothing but a bunch of Roman Catholic deceived liars who don't know what we're talking about, and they can't even define what the difference is between a Roman Catholic and a Protestant. Okay? So, and I'm speaking from the heart right now. I'm not getting like emotional or whatever, but I really get sick and tired of watching these YouTube videos. Christians are cowards. We're scared. We get cut and all this other stuff. But I guarantee you, on Friday, if I go to downtown North and I confront Israel United in Christ, they're not going to answer no questions. They're not going to want to talk to me. Everybody in the neighborhood knows they won't. The Muslims down there, the Christians down there, and even the Hebrew Israelites know they're not going to answer no questions because they don't got any answers. They don't know the truth.
Man, G-Man, you get me fired up, bro, because I mean, I went through the same thing, man. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I actually, I saw IUIC outside teaching, and I approached them, and they didn't even want to talk to me. You know, they didn't even want to engage me in conversation. You know, and
exactly.
You know, that's the thing. Is like they say a lot. You know, they're very, very prideful when they're, you know, in their own controlled platform. But the moment someone steps up, you know, to address their bad theology, you know, their bad doctrines, then they want to ignore you. They want to try to make fun of you, and you know, it resorts to unfruitful conversation. And it's very frustrating because, you know, they edit the videos, you know, with the crisp edits, and they do all they can to basically slander, Christianity in a sense, and you know, and try to promote their theology and their doctrine, genuine enough to have an actual civilized conversation. You know,
brother, you're so right about that. I was over there in Harlem not too long ago. Me and brother Ken, we went over there to talk to Tazadaki's people. Tazadaki, he wasn't there, but I think one of his top guys were there, and they went and talked to us because they claimed they was on guard duty. Everybody in the building can't be on guard duty. So what they did was they took us around the corner and they promised us that they would have a back and forth with us. But all they did was say this: well, if you got the truth, why do you want to talk to us? That's not a person that's going to debate. That's the deterrent,
you know? Right there. That's the deterrent. You know, and that's the thing. It's like when you address them publicly, they'll resort to saying things like, well, why aren't you teaching? Where's your spot on the street? Why are you teaching on the street? Why you got to come over here and, you know, why you got to harass us? You know, like that's their deterrent right there.
And a lot of deflection. One of the things, you have these groups that spend years saying they're the top group, they're the only ones with the truth, and then when people start to focus on them, all of a sudden it's, well, why me? Why not the Mormons? Why not the Jehovah's Witnesses? Why not the Catholics? Huh? Right. Why not this? Right. And that? You know, it's all of a sudden it's all this deflection, and they put themselves on a pedestal, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, no, leave me alone.
There's only two groups left for me, man, and that's the ISUPK and GOCC. I haven't officially recorded a confrontation with them. I met them once. They was very polite and they were nice and everything, which is why I didn't hit the record button. But I told them the next time I go down there and I talk to them, you know what I mean, we're gonna do a recorded back and forth. And I also made it clear numerous times that when I get the time, when I get time off of work, I'm going down there to deal with the ISUPK, and I can't wait because General Yohana is nothing more than an emotional mouthpiece for that community. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I've heard the guy say white people are not in the Bible. I've heard him. You know what the latest thing I heard him say, which is ridiculous? The white man is Lucifer. I heard him say that. So I recorded that timestamp on my phone, and when I go to deal with them in New York, the very first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play that and say, "Excuse me, do you believe this stupidity? Like, have you actually read what the Bible says about Lucifer? He was in Eden. You know what I mean? When was the white man in Eden if the white man wasn't born until Esau? I'm dying to talk to these guys.
Well,
these guys don't know what they're talking about.
And let me real quick there. First of all, I thought it's funny, you know, the idea we're on guard duty. It reminds me of the British Royal Guards at Buckingham Palace. You know, they're all like, you can't talk to them. I don't know if you guys ever seen those videos. They're all quiet. But
I know.
Yeah, I interacted with a camp locally here in Phoenix called Yahweh Shai's Servants in Israel. And with them, they taught me their doctrine that the one who tempted Adam and Eve there in the garden was sort of the prototype of Esau. And then that demonic tempter was reincarnated as Cain. And then Cain was reincarnated as Esau. And so they had like kind of a lineage and a trail of this. And so the basic way they portrayed it to me, if my understanding was correct, and I believe it was from what this particular camp was saying, was that basically the white man, in a sense, was in the garden in that he was the one tempting them. Has anyone ever heard this? My understanding is it has some affinity with an old One West breakdown. Abu, do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, I don't know about the connection to One West, except for the fact that there's been a number of groups that have said that Cain, for example, was the precursor to Esau. You know, that Esau is Cain reincarnated, and that the mark on Cain was leprosy. You know, that Cain's the first quote unquote white man. But I wish Hadash was here, because Hadash just 6 months ago he contacted me because he said that he had encountered just one guy. It wasn't a group, but it was one guy who all of a sudden was making recourse to a certain, I think it was Targum Yerushalmi or something like that, where it says that that Cain was actually fathered by the serpent. You know, that, you know, while Abel might have been, you know, a legitimate son of Cain was the serpent's son, and this appears in, I think, Targum Yerushalmi. So it's people are delving in there and they're looking for stuff. And the running joke that Hadash and I had is all of rabbinic literature, all that Jewish stuff, it's all false, except for this part that I can use to my advantage.
I like to say real quick too. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 makes it very ecclesiastics, as some people would say. Ecclesiastes makes it very clear that there's nothing new under the sun. And when I first heard that Cain doctrine from some of the Hebrew Israelite camps, that the mark on Cain was that he became white. The first thing that immediately came to my mind was the Mormon doctrine, because they actually teach the complete opposite, that the first man that became black was due to the mark of Cain. So, you know, it just makes me think about
there's this disobedient angel. The angels in disobedience became black, but you know, it's funny that there were.
That's true, but they do teach the mark of Cain.
No, they do teach that though, the mark of Cain.
Yeah,
that the Cain.
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
wow.
they do.
Wow.
Yeah.
They also teach the Adam God doctrine, and they also teach that Native Americans were descendants of Israelites who took a submarine across into the United States.
I didn't hear about that
compass.
The Mormon.
That's where the
Mormon thing with the Native Americans is very relevant here, and I don't know if you guys have seen this come up. The thing is, because the Mormons and a few breakaway groups have taken the position that Native Americans are Israelites, there's a lot of material out there that they've produced over the years, and even some fraudulent material, some hoaxes that they've produced to try to present evidence for that. What's happened now is you're going to occasionally see one Westers who will appeal to something that a Mormon or a similar character wrote, sometimes way back in the beginning of the 20th century or something like that, even the 19th century, saying, they'll point to something that's arguing that they're Israelites, and they'll say, hey, look, I didn't make this up. Look, this is an Edomite saying this,
Oh, real quick, Abu, real quick. I gotta say something real quick about that. They make an appeal to the Back Creek Stone and things like that. All these artifacts that have already been proven to be frauds and hoaxes, and a lot of them don't know that they're frauds and hoaxes, but then they'll make appeals because, for example, I don't know if a lot of you guys know Glenn Beck. He's a Mormon, and he's also, I believe, he used to be on Fox News. A lot of them will make appeals to Glenn Beck's video that he did some years ago.
Right. Yep.
And ironically enough, because he's a Mormon, right? But people came out and they exposed the fact that here's Glenn Beck using all this pseudo archaeology to try to come up with his theory, and now you have Hebrew Israelite proponents using the same video. Glenn Beck, the laughing stock of, news, I guess you could say, in certain respects, coming out with all this pseudo archaeology that's already been debunked. And now here Hebrew Israelites are actually trying to push this to the forefront. Look,
even a white man
you have a white scholar, and they actually think Glenn Beck is a scholar. A lot of them actually think Glenn Beck is a scholar.
Joke.
Right. And then
Esau admitted it right there.
Right. But it's funny because the thing is that there's actually a video, and Abu, you know who Rebel Alliance Media is. I know you've had your interactions with them over the years, Marksman and them, and all those guys, KOC.
I like those gentlemen. We have bitter disagreements, but I really like those gentlemen.
Right. Well, a few months ago, they had a video on their channel where they interviewed Apariam and Isaiah, who were two former members of One West, and Apariam and Isaiah actually revealed some very interesting things concerning Mormonism and Arya making appeals to the Book of Mormon. Apparently, it was either Arya or Tazadakia. I don't remember quite.
They said it was Tazadakia.
Right, or Tazadakia, right. He introduced the Book of Mormon basically into the school. So whenever we, think about, well, there's a lot of interesting similarities there. Well, I mean, if Tazadakia knows or knew about the Book of Mormon and introduced it into the school, then that in and of itself says it all. I mean, that lets you know that the influence doesn't stop necessarily at, the Bible with some of these guys. Some of them will go outside of the Bible to try to look for what I like to call confirmation bias. They just look for anything to try to verify their faulty claims or their, crazier claims. You know, just like you were saying, Abu, with the you know, Talmud and everything.
Let me point you all to a very interesting thing that you can hear on Debate Talk for You. It's called the 12 Tribe Chart Breakdown with Sakawar from IUIC, recorded in 2014, and it's one of the teachings, not one of the debates. In this, I just listened to this today. This man quotes A View of the Hebrews. Does anybody know what that book is? A View of the Hebrews?
No, I never heard of it before.
By a man who a lot of people speculate, and in fact, there's been some evidence to prove at least some of the thesis, that is where big chunks of the Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith ripped off of. And what A View of the Hebrews is basically this guy's speculation about the Native Americans being scattered Israelites. That's the main thesis of the book. And Joseph Smith, it does seem, ripped off some parts of it. And he's known to be a plagiarizer. He actually plagiarized from the King James Version. If you read the Book of Mormon, it actually copies whole sections of Isaiah. Now, if it's translated from Reformed Egyptian, which he claimed it was, then why would it match the KJV? You see what I'm saying? In the English, that doesn't even make sense. But nonetheless, you have these guys actually quoting that, ironically enough. So there's some trippy stuff with all that. And, yo, man, we got to wind this down. And so what I'd like to do is briefly mention IUIC. This video came out about 2 weeks ago where it's mainly Nathaniel drops a whole bunch of scriptures in a brief amount of time, which sounds good to people who are Hebrew Israelites, so-called, one Westers really. But really, there's no time to process or think about really what he's saying, and it's bad interpretation after bad interpretation. Who has seen the video? I'd like to get your brief preliminary comments on it and why we need to do a future show on it. Now, this is the context. The video was made as sort of a further response to the ex-Hebrew Israelites. So specifically to Kevin, who we interviewed, and Marcus, who is on the chat right now. He calls Marcus and his brother the Iscariot brothers, and he calls Kevin Kevy Kev. So that's the two nicknames they've been given. And then he calls James White James Edomite. And so, Faithful, you watched it, and I'd like to hear what you have to say, and then I'd like to hear So Real if he's still on, and I'd like to hear Marcus last if we could. Or are you ready to say something now, Marcus? Looks like you're up, Marcus. What? Let me get you first in, actually.
I saw it. To be honest, when I first saw it, I was confused because you know, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but there was a video that they made about me first. It was a panel full of deacons, and Nathaniel himself wasn't there, and it was the deacons. They were basically, you know, slandering me and you know, calling me different names, and you know, talking about my mom and things like that, you know, just getting real carnal in the video. And so, you know, I contacted somebody in IUIC and I said, yo, this is carnal, you know, this isn't even in the spirit. And, you know, I told them that it was slanderous, and I told them all parts were everything that was slanderous. And immediately, you know, I get a call from Nathaniel himself, and he apologizes to me. He says, you know, brother, you know, I'm just calling you to apologize. You know, video was very carnal, you know, and I understand that those brothers were not in the spirit, you know, and they slandered you and X, Y, and Z. And he said, you know, we don't want to go railing for railing or, you know, calling you names or, you know, and stuff like that. And he said, so, you know, I want to apologize. And I said, I forgive you. You know what I'm saying? I was like, you know, I'm glad you called me up. And I was like, you know, that's good. That was beautiful that you called me up and apologized. And I told him that, you know, I don't mean any harm to them, you know, I'm not trying to throw any personal shots at them. I said, but the things that I will discuss is the doctrine that they teach. And I will get on the doctrine that they teach. And he said, okay, well, you know, we're praying for you. We hope that you repent. And, you know, he hung up. And so I thought it was that. And then next thing you know, I get a notification that they upload a video. And now this is the new video they upload. And now it's no longer the deacon slandering me. it's Nathaniel himself saying everything basically that the deacon said, and he's doing it all himself. So when I saw it, I'm just like, what? Like, you know, that was just completely confusing, you know, because at first he calls me up, you know, sounding kind, you know, sounding peaceful, and then he uploads a video of, you know, the exact thing he apologized for. So, you know, I'm just kind of confused on that. I don't really know why they decided to upload that. And you know, immediately when the video was uploaded, you kind of, you know, it's like you had everybody in their congregation liking the video, so you can kind of see the agenda behind it. It was, you know, kind of, it was more like them trying to, I guess, they must be trying to defend their name. So I don't know, man, but I'm honestly confused on why they uploaded that video.
How can I contact Daniel? How can I contact?
Say it again.
How can I contact him?
Nathaniel.
Yeah.
They have, if you go on their website, I believe there's contact information for you to get in contact with them.
Because if these guys won't come to our hangouts, maybe I should just call these guys on the phone. I already talked to Tazari. What I should have did was record the conversation. So I think I'm gonna start calling these guys on the phone.
Right, and you know, I'm actually because I that's kind of funny that you said to record the conversations. You know, it's like I got to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's with that now, because you know, when Nathaniel called me, something was telling me I should have did, but I was, you know, I was like, I don't, you know, this seems like a genuine call, you know, and I wanted to, you know, I thought it was going to be a spiritual thing, you know, a brother calling me up and he's apologizing. I looked at it at that as a positive thing. Okay, that's a fruit of the spirit being shown there. You know, the brother he's examining himself, and, you know, I guess he corrected the deacons, but that is kind of, you know, what am I to do with that apology when, you know, you turn around and you do the same exact thing you just apologize to me for it? That's, to me, that's very hypocritical.
Yeah, you don't accept his apology because he's not sincere about it. You know what I mean? You can forgive him for what he did and then deal with his doctrines in another video, but he's not sincere about what he said. And again, I want information to contact him. I'll talk to him on the phone and tell him why he's wrong. I ain't got a problem with that.
And another thing too is in the video, I'm gonna go back and rewatch it, but when I watched it, I noticed that they didn't deal with anything theological. They didn't deal with any, you know, the parts where, you know, I exposed their teachings, their tactics. They didn't even deal with it. It was more like a, you know, a slander fest. You know, they called me web of deceit, web of lies. I don't know if you saw the first video that they uploaded about me, but they actually photoshopped my, they took a picture of me, one of my Facebook pictures, and they photoshopped that, and they made it into a photo of, I guess, me hugging a fireman. You know, and I guess they did it for, you know, for laughs or whatever, to you know, make me to make fun of me or whatever. And, you know, obviously it is hypocritical, because I actually have a screenshot where you had a captain in IUIC. These are the things that they do. These are the tactics. They do things to, you know, they try to make fun of you, especially when they kick you out. They'll make fun of the members that they kick out. They'll make little memes about them. They'll Photoshop them and make little jokes, and they'll laugh about it and send it to the other members, stuff like that. So they did it for one specific brother, and you had the leadership or whatever, they got on a captain for doing that. They corrected him for that. But then I guess when it comes to me, you know, I guess everything is just, anything goes, you know. So they, you know, they got the brothers to Photoshop me out and everything, and edit my picture. They try to make it silly on, you know, on YouTube. So it's just hypocrisy, man. It's railing for railing, and, you know, in the sense they want to kind of want to go back, you know, with being carnal. And, you know, that's pretty much my take on that. I mean, when I do these interviews, man, I give all honesty. You know, I don't have any secret agenda to slander anybody. You know, I'm giving my honest testimony, you know, of my experience in the Hebrew Israelite movement. You know, the things that I've been through, what I saw, what I was taught, And I testified that. And I mean, it's evident. You can see their teachings on YouTube. You can see their tactics on YouTube. So, for them to sit up there and call me web of deceit, web of lies, and say that I lied, they didn't say anything that I lied about. They just want to say, oh, he's a liar. Jews are scary. He's a traitor. And I've noticed that this is what, unfortunately, I have to say this, but this is what you will see in a lot of black militant groups. Whenever we speak out on the things that, the unjust things that are being done, we speak out on the bad teachings that are coming out, then they're quick to call you a traitor, a secret agent of the government, Illuminati, FBI, whatever. They call you all types of names to, I guess to just slander you and get people to not want to, listen to what you're saying. And that's basically what it looks like. Those are their tactics that they do to defend their name.
I can tell you how to get past that. Just keep asking them simple questions like what the gospel is, what is salvation, and things like that. Because the one thing you'll notice is the people that are listening to them outside, if they see that these people are avoiding answering questions, and they see that they're weak or like ducking. Like ducking you when you're confronting them, it makes them look weak and it takes away from their credibility. And they will totally ignore them about you being an agent and whatnot. We shouldn't so much concern ourselves, I guess, with the people that we're debating as much as we're dealing with the people who's listening to them. Because the weaker you make them look, the less credibility they have and the less people are listening to them. It's very powerful if you just go there and you just say, you know what, can you tell me what I got to do to be saved? And they don't know what to say to you. It makes it really bad.
Let me tell people this video is called "The Israelites, Negroes That Join with Their Oppressors." So that's actually what it's called there, and it's a pretty trippy video, man. So we've got to do some response to, especially probably the misuse of the scripture. That's what I'd like to focus on. There's some real misuse of the scripture in this video that goes down, and that is standard practice. And just like when you start to engage in Hebrew Israelite counter apologetics, you notice how they call Gentiles, whenever it clearly refers to Gentiles having equal status in the kingdom now at the foot of the cross, whenever that is clearly being portrayed again and again, they say those are the scattered Gentile Israelites. And I use that terminology because in this video, actually, you'll hear Nathan use that term, scattered Gentile Israelites. That's something they essentially have to invent. A second big one that they have to invent is what they say whenever the law was mentioned, and in relationship to it being altered or changed and how we keep it or what we observe about it, or there's something where the discussion in scripture is having about what the Christian's relationship is to the law now post-cross. They always say it just refers to the law of sacrifice. So I really want to get into that misuse.
Right. Oh man, that's a big one. And I actually wrote a comment. If you was to go to, I think if you look at the video, I don't know if they deleted my comment or not, but I actually addressed some of the things that they brought out in that video that they did on me. But yeah, their whole thing is they believe that the old covenant is simply the law of animal sacrifice, and that if that isn't embarrassing, then I don't know what to say. They don't have an understanding on what the old covenant is. They don't know what the law of Moses is. It's kind of, it's sad because these are grown men who, they get out in the streets and they, quote unquote, risk their lives on bad theology. They don't know anything that they're talking about. So that's the thing, man. It's like what G-Man was saying. It's like when you ask them basic questions, it's really going to be scary on their part because that are so simple that they don't understand. And when people see that, it's going to be like, it's going to be shattering. It's going to be groundbreaking.
That's because they're programmed. They're programmed to respond to certain questions. So right. It's sort of like the J-Dubs, the Jehovah's Witnesses. They have a little brown book that they carry with them called Reasoning from the Scriptures or something like that. And if you ever Yeah, and if you ever bump into a J-Dub and they point out and they bring out one of these books, ask them if they can actually give you a copy of it, and watch how hesitant they'll be to give you a copy. And the reason why that is because in that book is a list of different questions that they may encounter from Christians who know the Bible, and responses to those questions that maybe they may be confronted with by Christians.
Right.
So,
right. And you know what?
Yeah.
You know what, brother?
There's the book.
Oh yeah. Okay. I see, brother Vocab. You got it. Right. Yep. That's the book right there. And
it's their Holy Spirit. This is their Holy Spirit right here.
Yeah, Charles T. Russell. Right?
And IUIC, they kind of mimic that in a sense. They have their own little thing going on. They call it a precept packet. It's a packet.
What? I want to get a hold of this.
Oh yeah.
Wait. They got a precept packet?
We gotta get a hold of the precept packet.
They have a precept.
Gold.
They have
Wait. Can you explain to us what this precept packet is?
GMS has that breakdown book as well.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, Abu. Did you guys hear Abu? GMS has a breakdown book. So between the breakdown book and the precept packet.
Wow. Yeah. So that's basically, and what it is like they'll basically, they'll have different topics. And they'll say, this is what these are the scriptures you want to use or whatever to combat Christians. And so it's like a precept packet that they all go by. So, I mean, it's kind of like if you ever sit down and just, I don't know about y'all, but, it's like one thing that I noticed, man. It's like, when I was a part of that movement, when you watch the different camps and IUIC and stuff teach, you'll notice how they all use the same, basically it's like the same scriptures, the same kind of breakdowns or teachings or whatever it's like the same, the same one West format. And it's number one, is very outdated. Number two, it can't be substantiated with any scholarly resources or anything. It's nothing that they can actually back up, but it's just weird claims. And you know what, one thing too that I don't know why I mentioned this, but it just kind of popped in my mind. If you take a look at their camp signs, right, they call them camp signs. Like they go out in the streets with these different signs set up. They actually have, like if you look at the one, they call it the true image of Christ sign. They have the black image, and they have, like, if you look at it, bro, I'm like, no kidding. This is something I did when I was in there, and I kept it silent. I was like, what? I didn't say anything at the time, but now that I think about it, it's like, wait a minute, that's weird. But when you look at the camp sign on the true image of Christ or whatever, they'll give like a reference to some link on Wikipedia or something like that, or I think it was something that leads you to some kind of book, and it'll tell you that this is the reference proving that Leonardo da Vinci was the one who invented that image or whatever. And it's like, when you follow the resources or whatever that they're providing, it doesn't even, it is nowhere to be found. So it's kind of like, it's weird. It's like they give you outdated or unvalidated sources, things that don't even really exist. They just have it there. And to me, it's disturbing. To me, it's just real disturbing. I don't understand that.
All right, yo, man, guys, we're about towards the end of our time. I don't necessarily want to go around the horn unless somebody has something to say. So here's what we'll do. If you have one other thing you feel like you need to say it. And then Faithful, I want to let you in. But this will be my final say. Abu, I want to bring this out real quick, and we're not going to do a whole breakdown of this, but this is sort of a postscript, a PS mark to that brief discussion we had about using that terminology, one West or one Wester, more and more to differentiate them from non-one West Hebrew style Israelites, non-one West style, like the Chicago camps, for example, not really in that one West vein or tradition. But my point by saying all that is just so everybody knows, there actually is a precedent for that. Meaning in academic theological discussions and circles, Abu, can you speak briefly to the precedent for this type of precise terminology that comes out of how people label Hasidic Judaism.
Yeah. Well, that sort of, it's a precedent for taking a noun and then putting an ER on it to describe the practitioners, the members of a given sect. Amongst the Hasidic Jews, their dynasty or court or sect will often be connected to a specific town somewhere in in Eastern Europe. So, for example, there's Lubavitch, which is from by the way, it'll be based on like the Yiddish pronunciations of these like towns in Eastern Europe or in Russia or something like that. So like you have Ljubovici is in Belarus, I think, and so in Yiddish it's Lubavitch. So the Hasidic Jews connected to that are called Lubavitchers, or Lubavitcher would be a member of that sect. And then you have like the people who are connected to Bobowa in Poland, they're called Bobovers. And then Bratslav in wherever Bratslav is, they're called the Breslavers and stuff like that. Within academic literature, they throw the ER on to sort of create this almost a participle,
Yeah, so that's one more reason why we kind of rolling that way. But anybody else that feels like they need to say something, try to make it brief because we got to get out of here within 5 minutes, really.
I do. Yeah. I do. The righteous are as bold as a lion. Proverbs 28:1. The one Western need to stop being cowards and face us already. That's it.
Anybody else? Final words?
Yeah, I got one thing to say, man. I definitely got something to say.
I was gonna give it to you last.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I want to see it.
Right.
No, I got you though. G-Con or Vecco or Marcus or even Abu.
I just want to say.
Make sure you get your piece.
Yeah, I just want to say. Go ahead, Vecco. You got it, brother.
No, I was just gonna say. God bless everyone, and thanks for having me on the show, and let's do this again. So,
slow down.
Right. All right. I just want to say peace and blessings to everybody out there. Make sure y'all go and check out that discussion I had with one guy from IUIC, I believe, or something like that. That's on my channel. He's from Knoxville. The brother, man, his name's so long, but for the most part, though, go check out that little discussion we had. It was a pretty neat discussion. Just the other day, my recent video upload, live Google chat, so y'all can go check that out on G Consciousness. Consciousness is spelled with a K. Make sure y'all give us some feedback just as well. We will be having another concerning the law and certain other things, mainly the dietary and also the New Testament and Old Testament contrast. Peace.
Good. Anybody else before we hand it to Faithful to end this joint right here? And so, man, we made a lot of announcements tonight, man. So there's definitely going to be a lot more coming in 2017. And you may be seeing more and more from the other brothers and less a little bit from me, because I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on writing. You'll still see me, but not as much in 2017. More writing on this and then working on getting some stuff out there. But anybody else before Faithful takes us home?
Read your Bible and do what it says.
All right, Brother Faithful. That's a good place for you to end, man. Close us out tonight on the show. We
got a new slogan that we're going to be using whenever we end these debates, and it's really the question. It's going to be a slogan that's made in the form of a question, and it's, what is the most important thing? Your identity in the flesh or your identity in Jesus Christ? That's the $1 million question. And depending on how one answers that, it'll say everything about that person and where they stand with Christ. And pray that those of you who are believers in Scripture would answer that it is your identity in Christ that matters the most. But, that's pretty much all I got to say about that, man. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I hope this has edified someone out there. God bless you all. And until next time, take care.
Peace out, y'all.